utility tariffs and high production costs. Well, we have a solid team of guests and analysts to dissect the issues and share with us what their key expectations are into this mid-year budget presentation. And as you know, Business Focus is sponsored by Telecel as well as Ecobank. Now, every day people face different emergencies: police emergencies, fire emergency, medical emergency, you name it. But many Ghanaians don't know their emergency number. So here's one you'd always want to remember: star 770 hash. Yes, star 770 hash is the new Ecobank Money emergency number. Star 770 hash gives you instant access to loans, fund transfers, utility, airtime payments, and data purchases, and so much more, even without data. So there's no need for you to panic when you find yourself in any money emergency, because Ecobank will always come to your rescue. Dial star 770 hash now for solutions to your money emergencies. Ecobank, the Pan-African Bank and proud sponsor of Business Focus, as well as Telecel. We'll move on to the other side and bring you updates now from the currency, the commodities market, as well as the Treasury bill front, to bring you updates on how all those various sectors have been faring. Well, now to the other side, and the cocoa is quite, after hitting some very significant rise in prices, is finally down slightly by some $257. That's now selling at $5,808 per ton. Gold is also down $125.49. It's trading at $3,994 per ounce. And of course, from what we've seen over the period, once gold starts falling, it means that crude oil is likely going up, and it's up by some $4.43. It's trading at $80.44. And this is post-announcement from President Donald Trump of the U.S. that the ceasefire between U.S. and Iran is over. And he's also hinted that they'll be taking over of the Strait of Hormuz. We'll just see how all of that pans out for us, especially as a country that imports a significant portion of our crude oil. Well, we'll see how the next couple of days finds out if they are able to go back to the negotiation table and secure a deal. Well, the dollar is selling for 11 cedis 49 pesos, the pound 15 cedis 35 pesos, and the euro for 13 cedis 8 pesos. I'll be guided that these figures will be much higher at a Forex bureau near you. We'll bring you updates now on the T-bills front, on the 91-day bill and the 364-day bill. But then we do know that government experienced some oversubscription, significant one. It hoped to raise some of 5 billion Ghana cedis. It had over 10 billion cedis in oversubscriptions and had to turn out a significant portion of that subscription from the Treasury bill market. Interesting twist over there. I'm sure it's the market responding to more favorable rates from the government, hiking the interest rates over the last couple of weeks after some significant undersubscriptions. But this is Business Focus on TV3. Let's go for a quick breather and we'll come back. We'll delve into our topic for today. Don't go anywhere.
Hello, my name is Pamela from Customer Service. Please revalidate your account by texting your Ghana card number to 0500,000 247.
Hey.
Welcome back. This is Business Focus here on TV3 with me, Michael Obodu. Now, every day people face different emergencies. Police emergency, fire emergency, medical emergency, you name it. But many Ghanaians don't know their emergency numbers. Well, here's one you'd always want to remember. *770#. Yes, *770# is a new EcoBank money emergency number. *770# gives you instant access to loans, fund transfers, utility payments, airtime and data purchases, and so much more even without data. So there's no need for you to panic when you find yourself in any money emergency. EcoBank will always come to your rescue. Dial *770# now for solutions to your money emergencies. EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank and proud sponsor of Business Focus, as well as Telecel. Now to our substantive topic for today. The mid-year budget review is in the offing now as Ghanaians across as Ghana crosses the mid-year mark. The macroeconomic landscape presents a complex interplay of resilience, structural adjustments, and mounting commercial pressures. Well, while major strides have been made in lowering benchmark reference rates and revitalizing private sector credit, local businesses continue to navigate the frictions of currency depreciation, rising utility tariffs, and shifting inflation dynamics. Tonight on Business Focus, we steer the current economic discourse, evaluating the tangible impact of macroeconomic indicators on the private sector, dissecting the true cost of production, and setting the critical expectations for the upcoming mid-year budget. Well, joining us on Business Focus tonight are the Executive Director of the Center for Policy Scrutiny, Dr. Edu Owusu-Sarkodie, the Private Sector Specialist, Nana Frimpong Ahen, Chief Executive Officer of the Chamber of Agribusiness, Anthony Morrison, Chief Executive Officer of the Chamber of Oil Marketing Companies, COMAC, Dr. Reversing Opong, and the Greater Accra Chairman of the Association of Ghana Industries, Chonam Akpelo. Well, some of my guests are seated here. Others will be joining us virtually, but gentlemen and lady, thank you so much for joining us. But before we delve into the conversation proper with my guests who are already seated, we'll walk you through some of the indicators and what they have looked like over the last couple of months as we approach the mid-year. That's basically the build-up throughout the year up until the mid-year. We saw inflation consistently decline up until June, somewhere in June, where it picked up slightly. It picked up significantly, of course, after going up marginally from 3.4 to 3.7. And largely, we know a lot of this happening here has been on the back of the Middle East tensions between the US, Israel, and Iran. And that is part of the reason why we've seen this spike in inflation. And the critical question will be, what is government's plan in the mid-year budget review to help cushion the economy and Ghanaians from the impact of this particular war? We do know that things had settled slightly, which had led to a reduction in fuel prices at the pricing window, even this month. But unfortunately, the tensions are back and fuel prices have skyrocketed, again hitting the $80 mark. What would this mean for the country and the economy? We do know that this, on the other hand, means some windfall for government in terms of its revenues from crude oil sales. How does it plan to use that to cushion Ghanaians? We're hoping that it will have some answers for us. Ghana's producer inflation rate, as well as we are seeing, it's remained relatively stable up until the Middle East tensions and its impact on the economy. Seeing a spike there from 1.5, we see it rise marginally and then go up significantly to 5.8%. So the critical question is, how is government planning to shield producers in order to be able to contain the issue of inflation and its impact on the general public? We saw some easing in the policy rate, significant drop from 15.5% to 14% as at March, when the government or the central bank felt quite comfortable with the progress that we've made as a country, but however has maintained it, especially in the heat of the Middle East tensions, in order to sort of help create that ecosystem that controls the risk element and not make us lose the gains that we've made with regards to the fight of keeping inflation significantly low in the single-digit region. We've seen some, marginal depreciation in the cedi, at least for the business community. They will say it's depreciated. However, it's still been relatively stable, giving them that room for predictability. But what is government's plan to sustain that and, if at all, help appreciate it or hopefully return it to the early part of the year's numbers, where we had some about 11.5 cedis to the dollar We saw some drop also in some around March, some appreciation in the currency, 10.4. Do they plan to return to that phase? What do the business community want? We'll get all those answers for you tonight as we discuss. And then we've seen fuel price especially go up significantly at some point. You see it there in April. It went up quite significantly, with diesel selling around 17 cedis, depending on where you buy it from. However, we saw some marginal decline over the last couple of weeks, especially this window, where petrol prices have dropped to about 12 cedis, 79 pesos at the leading OMCs, that Star Oil and GOIL. But now that we are seeing this tensions return with the dollar, with the crude oil selling at $80 per barrel on the international front, what does this really mean for consumers? But let me speak now in studio with some of our guests who have come in to pick their thoughts, and then we'll digest the conversation properly and find out what their expectations are. Chona Akwelo, good to have you in studio. I know for a lot of you the year has been pretty good up until this Middle East conversation.
Yes. Good evening, and good evening to your cherished listeners. Yes, so for us in industry, the year from January to now has been fairly stable, and so it's important to give credit to where it is due. If you look at all the indicators as you've been showing us a while ago, you realize that there have been relative stability in all the indicators. Inflation, even though recently has gone up, but it's been over the years over the period very stable. If you talk of interest rate, actually policy rate has been fairly okay. In fact, there have been significant levels of improvement in access to credit.
Is it true that banks are chasing you for money, with money to give you loans?
I'll get there very shortly. So yes, there has been an improvement in access to credit to businesses and so on. Whilst at it is also important that we would like to see, for us in industry, we would like to see from stability to transformation. I mean, we want to see these gains realized on our factory floors, in our office buildings and so on. As I speak to you, yes, there's access to credit, there's cost of credit has gone down. However, you have to look at the components of the beneficiaries of this. And you realize that they are mainly people who are importing or buying and selling, as opposed to manufacturers. So we're saying that we're very concerned about access to manufacturers, access of credit to manufacturers, which is where industry belongs. And our view is that there has to be a major steps taken to improve, access to money. Currently, the banking system operates heavily on a collateralized system, and also short-term. And so most of the facilities are commercial, short-term, 2 years and so on. But if you really want to achieve the 24-hour economic policy, you have to have a long-term approach to financing. You have to get industry to access 25 years credit and so on. And our view is that that's not happening as much. And so we have a major issue around that. And if they can take steps to really create a transformation plan by ensuring that we have access to long-term financing, development financing of the sort, it will be great. But overall, it's still good. Our hope is that the crisis in Middle East will not affect us so much. We're still watching the exchange rates very closely, because that's a major determinant of what we do in industry, and overall, once we continue to stabilize it, our view is that we'll be doing well as a country.
Dr. Oppong, he spoke about the Middle East crisis. That comes into your turf because of how this affects you as oil marketing companies. As you talk about it, how has the year been?
Wow, I mean, it's been a wonderful year. Sorry, good evening to you, Mike. I didn't even greet at all, and to the lovely panelists on the platform today. It's been a very interesting year when fuel prices were at a single digit at a point, and taking a careful look at how even the numbers have been in terms of even volumes, right? It tells you that even at the heat of it, fuel consumption even went up. That is even ridiculous. Because other than now, you got to think that once fuel price go up, consumption go down. Yes, it may went down, but if you look at March, April, it's the highest so far in the year. It has affected businesses, especially for marketers who are on the cash and carry basis, who are not able to lock product down. So they were being hit by the up and downs on the oscillating prices. I mean, for crude oil price to hit above $100 within this first half tells you that the government has really suffered. And we sat on this same CDO discussed the intervention that the government made in between the April, May, which supported transport prices not going up as expected. Yes, I'm not supposed to talk about PRC tariff, but hey, we cannot talk about it. We can't talk about all these things. I mean, without hitting on it, because one of the main drivers of the determination of, PRC tariff has to do with the forex exchange, or let's say the exchange rate, which has been on the low. However, we see tariffs going up. We saw it coming down anyway within one of the quarters. Falling lending rate alone could not, we've already realized that could not improve business performance. And the speaker just mentioned it. Rising fuel and utility costs continue to squeeze profit margins, especially where businesses cannot fully pass cost onto the consumer. And we've seen that even at the retail stations. And that's why you and I will always fight about the price floor. Because at certain times realize that the tax and levies would squeeze away all the margins of the retail or the oil marketing companies. Today, if you pick a typical 1 liter fuel, you realize that 70 to 75% of it goes into the SREF, which is the BDC cost, or landing cost, as you may call it. 20 to 30% goes to government for taxes, and 3 to 5% will come to the oil marketing companies. And out of that, they are paying tax. They are paying salaries, rent for whoever is renting a facility, or even if you took loan to build it. I believe that as we go into the media review, even though our analysis ends with May as it stands today, the government, we really hope, I'm sure this conversation is going to get there, what our expectations are. But we have some numbers as to how much the government has made from the downstream, amidst how much fuel prices, the crude oil product prices have also been.
Okay. I see you're in a hurry to get to your expectations. Well, don't worry, we'll get there. And I'm sure you also give us a prediction, a foresight of what to expect in the coming windows. Now that crude oil has also crossed $80, we are concerned. But I have in studio with me also Nana Frimpong, just a private sector specialist. Now we've heard the energy sector people raise concerns. We've heard manufacturing people raise concerns. You as a private sector person too, a specialist, what's your assessment really? How do you see all of this put together?
Okay, so I would say three things. I would say two things, actually. I think what the government set out to do with the budget, particularly as it relates to private sector development, was three things. The first thing was macro stability and continuity. That's the base. The second thing they wanted to achieve, really, was about productivity and jobs. And then the third thing they wanted to achieve was private sector mobilization. Those three things were exactly what I think the minister was trying to achieve with the budget. Now, looking back over the last couple of, I would say, 6 months, I think, or even, let's say, roughly, 6, 7, 8 months. I think actually largely the macro stability, although, industry mentioned that there's sort of dips here and there, I think largely the recovery has been solid. They've achieved a certain level of macro stability and continuity in some ways. And then you've seen private sector mobilization. So on the whole, you've seen, we just had recently establishment of a pasta factory. When you see the data on FDI, that's also risen. So on the whole, significantly. I mean, I think about by a factor of 3, if you wish. You've seen even domestically companies expanding, new pasta plants, new floating glass plants. And so there's been some significant achievement of the second objective that the government had in terms of private sector mobilization, and there's a little bit more that has to be done there, and we'll come to expectations in a minute. And then the third thing was about productivity and jobs, and I think this is where the rubber hits the road. And I think my colleague was talking about transformation. What we haven't seen is the huge amounts of productivity and jobs that we wanted to see. And I think largely that's a time lag issue, but because investment takes time to generate the jobs. But I think secondly is to do with the fact that the factors of production we need to have a concerted effort on the factors of production. And two of them in particular is logistics cost and energy cost. I mean, energy cost in Ghana is trending around maybe 18 to 20 cents per kilowatt hour. You compare to Ivory Coast, we're higher than Ivory Coast, we're higher than Togo. So this tells you that actually fundamentally, although we've had stability, for manufacturing in particular, energy cost will still make them slightly uncompetitive. And therefore your jobs and transformation dividends won't be there. My colleague talked about it in terms of financing, very heavily collateralized, and this is how our financial system works. Although I must say that the stock exchange has been interesting. When we talk about different types of financing, one of the things I like to see more of, for example, is, and I think that one of the things I want to see more in the budget is things about, the capital markets. And I think that, private sector, Casa Preco, Zen, these were oversubscribed. So you could see that there are different types of capital that I want to see more in the system. But I think in large, the bit that has been a bit of a challenge, and I think we will talk about this a bit more, has been on the productivity and the job side, driven largely by still clunky cost of doing business, which is energy cost. I'll just leave you one statistic. So for example, in Ghana, to generate a ton of production, you'd spend $250. That's compared to $150 in Ivory Coast and compared to $60 in Malaysia. So you see that the cost of production for manufacturing in particular, which is where majority, and agriculture, which is where majority of the productivity gains and jobs are going to happen, we're still facing. So Ghana is one on the macro stability, or is winning. It's winning on the private sector mobilization to some extent. But I think on the productivity and the job side, I think there is still a bit of and I would like to see more in the budget in terms of how do we trigger that third element.
Interesting. Now, she touched on it, so I'll bring it to you. And you had also mentioned the issue about long-term capital. And one place to raise that patient capital is the stock exchange. Is there a challenge really for members of AGI to really take advantage of the capital market? Because from what we've seen, the potential is there.
Yes, it's true. It is true. We've had several engagements with the Ghana stock market, and so some of our companies are actually listed, and they even have alternative arrangements where you can, if you're not there, you can start from somewhere and then you get there. But I believe that you also have to understand the culture of how business is done in Ghana, where essentially majority of the people would like to own, 100% and so on. So the culture of sharing is not general.
Okay.
Yeah, it's extremely selective. Besides, the stock market must also do more to reaching out. I know they do a lot of advocacy, but people see them from a distance really, but they have to get closer. But also at least about the paperwork. The number of paperwork that is required to be successful on the stock market is a lot. So they should look at the paperwork, streamline it in a manner that it can be attractive to the smallest but profitable, productive businesses that way. But it's an area we've been considering.
Fair point. And I'm hoping that you will do more too, because you should be able to consolidate your members to take them there and help them with the paperwork so that they can become larger companies. So I'm hoping that the next time you come on the show, you bring me updates on the number of them that you have helped transition to the stock exchange. We'll be on standby for that. But let me speak to the CEO of the Ghana Chamber of Agribusiness, Anthony Morrison. Anthony, thank you for your time. Interesting year it has been. Now we are hearing the issues of raining and flooding. How is the agri sector faring so far?
Well, thank you very much, and very good evening to your cherished viewers and colleagues in the studio and those virtual. Yes, it's been a challenging 6 months. I think that the flood has done its bit, but corresponding in terms of strategic policy alignment, government commitment towards key fundamentals within the agriculture sector, and also overall strategic objective of the entire Ghana's agriculture sector in terms of its national policy implementation, decentralization, have seen some major weaknesses in that light. We haven't seen that commitment in strategic investment in certain areas. And we are also seeing that government is taking a lot of responsibilities on itself rather than deploying strategic management tools like PPP sectors, where government can strategically or deliberately create opportunities for agribusiness sectors within the private sector to be able to unlock several of the potentials. And those are some of the challenges that we think we should be able to work on as a country going forward. I must say that the next 6 months will be very critical for the country's agriculture sector and the food sector to say. In that, if you have realized, our food importation bill keeps going up across all sectors, from tomatoes to fish, poultry, and we are having serious challenges in exports of our eggs to Burkina Faso and Ivory Coast. We are having challenges with importation of livestock. We are having challenges with our tomatoes, our ginger sector. So there is a need for us to plan a long-term agriculture national strategic agenda for the next 20, 30 years. How do we intend to transform Ghana's agriculture sector, which is the mainstay of Ghana's economy, where we have about 53% of Ghana's Ghanaians plying their economic trade. So these are very important things that we need to look at. How are we deliberately creating jobs? How are we reducing post-harvest losses? And how are we ensuring that sustainable agro-industrialization that is inuring to the benefit of the country, reducing food imports and increasing our food exports? These are some of the things that we need to be looking at as a country.
Interesting there. And I'll come back to you on what your key expectations are, because this government has also outlined quite a significant amount of policies in the agricultural sector. We heard also the Minister of Agric recently saying that Ghana should be tomato sufficient in the next couple of months because of some of the programs that they are rolling out. I'll pick your thoughts on that when I come back to you shortly. But let me speak to Dr. Edu Owusu-Sankor there. Doc, everything seemed to have been going pretty okay up until the last, say, 1 or 2 months, where we've seen a spike in some macroeconomic indicators. From where you sit, how is it looking? Should government begin to re-strategize, or it's just early days, we should give some time, and all the other plans that we've put in place would find their level, so to speak?
Well, thank you for having me. Good evening to my colleagues, my colleague Chonam, my classmate. Well, we started the year without knowing that there will be geopolitical tension in the Middle East, US-Iran, Israel war. We didn't anticipate it, but obviously external shocks are always with us. And so sometimes you should plan for them, but we didn't know where it was coming from. Now that it is with us, it is disrupting some of the gains we made with respect to inflation, and therefore, of course, coming from import bills, fuel bills, also translating into transport costs and ultimately inflation. Some selected items cause inflation, are really fueling inflation in Ghana, and I think transport costs is one of them. Petrol, diesel, and alternatively taxi fares, trotro fares. And so we should start as a country trying to organize ourselves in as much as we want to see if the war will persist. I think that's where the magnitude of the impact to be felt. But it's not like it's early days yet. We should start reorganizing ourselves and see how things go. We should not sit down and be consumed or be taken by surprise by the whole thing. And we must also try and speak to the data. Let's be guided by data and not by emotions and sentiments. So, we began the year, you see the posture of the government, both the fiscal policy and the monetary policy. The posture is that they kept things tight in the year 2025, and they began to loosen things from 2026, 2027, 2028 going. So we saw signs of expansionary fiscal and monetary policy. Let me add the adjective gradual expansionary and gradual expansion fiscal monetary policy, because they do not want to just open up things just like that. They want to make it gradual. And so we must put in place plans to consolidate the gains that we have made. The government has been talking about expenditure-led fiscal consolidation. We want to recommend that they pursue revenue-led expenditure consolidation, because if you don't have the revenue, then you are forced to cut certain expenditure, certain essential expenditure, like even road construction. Road construction is key. My colleagues from the private sector always tell you that things to the private sector are also key, like providing electricity and water. And so you wouldn't want the government to cut expenditures to these sectors in terms of their investment. You want the government to raise enough revenue to be able to deliver on their mandate of the provision of public goods and services. And so it's not like early days, and we should still begin to manage ourselves well and put plans in place, especially when it comes to the cost of living. And my colleagues have talked more about inflation. We know where inflation is coming from. We've talked about transport costs, tomatoes, ginger, diesel, petrol, trotro fare, taxi fare, even secondary school fees. I was surprised to see secondary school fees in the midst of free SHS. Maybe they're talking about private school fees.
Sure.
And we also know the hotspots of inflation in Ghana, the regional hotspots. Let me give you the rundown of the regions.
Briefly.
Northeast region has been experiencing high inflation above the national average for a long time.
Okay.
So Northeast region needs to be studied. So Northeast region, Ashanti region, Eastern region, Greater Accra region, Central, and Volta region. These are the regions with the hotspots inflation.
Okay.
And so if you have any plans, this is where we must go to.
Fair point. I'll come back to you on that. And especially when you talk about the revenue, government switching to revenue, I want to maybe you clarify whether you mean by revenue in terms of taxes or increasing, how really you expect government to tackle that part. But this is Business Focus here on TV3 with me, Michael Obodu. We're going for a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation. Please, don't go anywhere.
Hello, my name is Pamela from Customer Service. Please revalidate your account by texting your Ghana card number to 0500,000 247.
Hey, Abili, wabedim.
Madam, give me the numbers behind your ATM card. I'm calling from the head office.
An email was delivered across to our customers this morning.
Confirm if this is your bank account. 100,100,100.
Thanks for sending your bank card details.
Send the OTP now to avoid cancellation.
EcoBank will never call, email, send an SMS asking for your PIN, OTP, bank card, or Ghana card details.
Don't get played. EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank.
Hello, please, I'm calling from Customer Experience Center.
Transform your business ideas into success stories with Telecel Business. Choose from a wide range of products and services tailor-made to drive your business. Call 0302-233-4040 or email to business@telecel.com.gh to sign up today. Telecel Business, connecting opportunities, connecting goals, connecting businesses. Telecel, connecting energies.
You need a bigger space to grow your business. You need to be ready for any season.
With me, Michael Obodu. Now, every day people face different emergencies: police emergency, fire emergency, medical emergency, you name it. But many Ghanaians don't know the emergency numbers. But here's one you'd always want to remember: *770#. Yes, star 770 hash is the new EcoBank Money emergency number. Star 770 hash gives you instant access to loans, fund transfers, utility payments, airtime and data purchases, and so much more even without data. So there's no need for you to panic when you find yourself in any money emergency, because EcoBank will always come to your rescue. Dial star 770 hash now for solutions to your money emergencies. EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank, and proud sponsor of Business Focus as well as Telecel. Now, we'll continue from where we left off, and I'll be speaking to my guests on Zoom to pick their expectations in briefly from the mid-year budget review presentation. I'll start with Anthony Morrison. You've heard a lot from the Agrics Minister, a lot of prospects over there. Mid-year, what do you expect to see in the budget? And please mute your... okay, no, go ahead.
Fundamentally, the sector is having major challenges with purchases of rice. As we speak, we still have more than 500,000 metric tons of paddy rice dotted across the country. And from the north, New Edibiasi, from the Apipe and Adidome enclave, we still have a lot of rice. So we expect that the government to budget enough rice for us to be able to recoup all these paddies in the system. As you may all be aware, we are also in our major season. In fact, major planting has already taken place. So we want that. In addition to that, we want a very clear strategic roadmap towards transforming Ghana's agriculture sector. A roadmap that will be committed to financing, a roadmap that government will be committed towards sustainable financing for the next 10 years. If we are to address our food shortages, reduce imports, whether we're looking at import substitution, then critically integrate engineering, mechanization, and irrigation, so that cropping in Ghana will help to address issues of
so the main thing for you is addressing the rice glut. You're expecting a lot of integration from the government and then expansion of the agri sector, irrigations and the like. Okay, interesting. Now let's talk to
let me also
Dr. Please hold on, I'll come back to you. Let me talk to Dr. Reversing-Opong. The oil industry is a critical one, so everybody's really curious about this one because of its impact on the economy. We are thankful that transport operators didn't increase transport fares during the hikes. But then, for you as operators, what are your key expectations?
Right, I mean, we thank the Honorable Minister of Finance last year, around the same time when we proposed the elimination of free tax or tax incentive on MGO. He listened to us. So we hope that this our message through the air will also get to him. As an industry, our message is very simple. We hope that he will maintain a stable tax regime to support business confidence. And this does not only relate to the oil and gas sector. If the government will not take any of the taxes on the petroleum products off, we want to have a stable regime, tax regime. And probably the government also want to improve on compliance through digital monitoring and wider enforcement. In that way, we are saying that it should improve on revenue collection by eliminating leakages. If you look at our report for last year, almost 500,000 liters of crude oil is still not being accounted for. And that's revenue lost to the country, to the government, and to the regulators for that matter.
Okay.
So let's avoid additional petroleum levies that could encourage fuel smuggling and unfair competition. And let me tell you, Michael, if you take a look at just from January to May, the government in total has made over almost 8 billion Ghana cedis from taxes alone. It tells you the importance from the sector.
From your sector
in terms
alone?
of revenue collection.
Okay,
Yes,
that's interesting. But Doc, before I let you go, quickly let us know, this next pricing window, will fuel prices go down? Because we've seen $80, but we are worried, please. What should we expect?
Well,
briefly?
it was going down. It was going down until this spike, to be fair. Because you know that we monitor day by day.
Yeah.
And we pick the averages for the two windows. So if you remember, 2 weeks ago, we forecasted, in fact, 3 weeks ago, we forecasted that fuel price will hit the 80s. if not even below, which was coming until what we see here.
So will it go down?
As an industry, we can never forecast. We can never forecast the intentions of geopolitical leaders. If you give us today being Monday, by Wednesday, we should be able to give you an indication.
Okay, fair point. All right, thank you so much. Briefly from you, economist Dr. Edu Owusu-Sarkodie, your expectations. 30 seconds.
Is it me?
Yeah, Dr. Owusu-Sarkodie.
Oh, so sorry. Okay, because of time, let me go straight to the point.
Sure, sir.
Made my point earlier that the fiscal consolidation must be a revenue-led fiscal consolidation going forward.
Okay.
I believe that if you have money, you can do anything. If the government raises now revenue, they can do a lot of things. So enforce compliance, simplify the tax handles, introduce electronic tax, get the informal sector to pay income tax, enforce or improve property tax collection, do something about the tax exemptions, and then the government must increase its stakes in the extractive sector. And finally, we want to see the 24-hour economy policy or program in full force because it's a promise, and I think they must deliver on that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. You had introduced electronic tax. What are your expectations? Do you agree with that, though? And then answer yours.
Yes. Look, our view is that the AGI will continue to be burdened about taxes.
Yeah.
And so our view is that if they broaden the tax bracket, it will be easier to expand revenue and free us. Because of the fact that AGI were able to be identified easily, they continue to burden us, and that's not fair. But for the mid-year budget, we don't expect anything new in terms of new taxes. Our hope is that they will rather reduce the already existing taxes. I mean, some of the duties and so on are relatively very high. Our view is that they should reduce it. Whilst at it, we would like them to look at the utility as well. Currently, it's not funny. The light bills and the water bills are really high. A lot of our industry depend heavily on water. So let's say the beverage companies. And so if you increase water tariffs, you are really affecting the very foundation of the cost buildup.
Okay.
So we want government to take steps to tackle the issue around losses, generational losses, distribution losses, etc.
So that utility tariffs can go down.
Can go down.
Fair point. Anything else?
Well,
that's the main thing.
Yes, and above all, there has to be a specific target of having us have access to long-term financing for industry to help build the 24-hour economy policy.
Okay, fair point. Nana, they say ladies first, but at this point, I'm sorry, it looks like ladies last. But
I noticed that, Michael.
We'll take it as a compliment.
Well, let's see how you think about it.
Yeah.
So for me, a number of things, and really quickly. One, I want to see the cost of production go down, which is, I think you talked about it, energy utilities, which means reforms. I'd like to see some policy signals in the budget about reforms, ECG reforms or wider reforms. On private sector capital mobilization, I'd like to see a little bit more on a stronger FDI sort of strategy and market access for local companies to access other markets. I'd like to see a bit more of that. I'd like to also see a little bit more on a balance on revenue. So it's not just about can we go after more tax, but about broadening the tax net. I'd like to see a bit more on the stability and predictability of the tax environment, because I think one of the issues about sort of changing tax environment means that businesses don't grow, are very negative about growing. So I'd like to see a bit more of that. And I think finally, I'd like to see a bit more of coordination and implementation capacity. And I think I'd like to end on this point because I think there is a lot of, my panelists talk about we want a strategy. I think there's a lot of strategies and I think there's enough strategies. I think what I want to see is pick one or two. I want to see in the budget have one or two key investment strategies in there and then bring private sector together to mobilize capital for that. So that's what I'm going to be looking for.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. That was Nana Frimpong Ahen. She's a private sector specialist. I also had in studio with me Chona Makbelo, Greater Accra, Chairman of the Association of Ghana Industries. Joining us via Zoom, Dr. Edu Owusu-Sarkodie, the Executive Director of the Center for Policy Scrutiny. I also had a solid group of other people who ran out of time. But thank you so much, gentlemen and lady, for your time. That'll be all for today's edition of Business Focus. For more stories, kindly check out our website at streamnews.com/business. Expect from us extensive coverage on the media budget review when the date is out. Thank you so much. I am Michael Obodu. As always, please stay safe. Catch you same time next week.
Thank you.
Business Focus is brought to you by EcoBank, Telecel,